reflections from the Celtic game as you look towards the Scottish Cup this weekend?
Look, there's no denying we're playing against a top quality team, and Celtic deserve to beat us in terms of the chances they created. But my frustration, just like it was after the game, was the final scoreline. I thought with 10 minutes to go, we're really competitive, we're in the game. So to lose the late goals was frustrating, and one that we're disappointed with. And on reflection as well, I think we've been hard done by in terms of the decisions in the game. For me, I think it's a red card for Alistair Johnson, because the guidelines is if a player prevents a clear and obvious goal scoring opportunity and doesn't do it in a natural action, then it's a red card. So looking back, I think he's been very fortunate not to get that. So overall, happy in terms of really competitive performance against the best team in the country, but still things that we need to work on.
Just quickly on that Alistair Johnson incident, I mean, there's an awful lot of these recently with VAR have been very questionable. Do you think there needs to be another review of this decision making, or is it, what's the solution to that?
I think maybe there just needs to be clarity in terms of, is VAR there for a clear and obvious mistake that's been missed, or is it re-refereeing the game? Because I think in James Brown's instance, in terms of the penalty that we concede, the referee on the pitch doesn't think it's a penalty. He's right there, and I don't think that's clear and obvious in terms of it is a penalty. So those are the things that maybe needs ironed out, just in terms of for us to know how things are working, because I don't think it was a scenario where Matthew, the referee, needed to get sent to the monitor, because I think it's one of those decisions that could have went either way. It's it's very subjective. So Matthew at the time didn't feel it was a penalty, and the amount of times he had to review it on the screen maybe suggests that he was still being convinced in his head whether he thought it was a foul.
How's Casper doing?
Casper is positive. It's not as bad as what we feared. Maybe when you see him coming off the pitch, I always fear when you see someone like Casper coming off, because play through anything, and like I said on Saturday, he's a warrior in terms of putting his body on the line. I think he's been sensible in terms of coming off at the time, and maybe this week's too soon for him, but I like to think for our next league game he'll should be available.
I mean, he's been such a big part of the squad since he came in, and it's obviously very good news that he's not going to be missing a long term.
Yeah, it is, and he's came today and he's wanting to get back out in the grass to try and see if he's even better than what he feels. But it's up to me to just put the reins on him a little bit. It's still only 72 hours since the game, so it's just been sensible about that. We'll see come Thursday how he's feeling. Has he improved even more? And then see if he's available for this Saturday or not.
How are you otherwise for defensive cover in the event of him maybe not making the game? Because I guess Will Nightingale and Ricky Lamie, if it spells out through injury themselves, you're quite well stocked in that position there.
Yeah, Ricky's had through no fault of anyone, he's had a really tough time. He had the injury at start of the season. He's came back. He was starting to get back to fitness. He's been ill for a long period of time over Christmas and New Year, which has meant he's not been involved due to that. So he's back training, but he's far behind the rest of the group in terms of his amount of time on the training pitch. Will, I'm being honest, he's had a little bit of a setback. From this time last week, we were looking at Will coming into the group again, and in terms of full training, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So we are light in that area, and we are looking to potentially strengthen in that area.
How advanced are you with that? Are you close to something?
Yeah, we've got something. We've got agreement in place for a player, but until that's actually signed, it's not been confirmed yet. But it's someone that could be available for this week.
Right. Is that a loan deal?
Yeah, it'd be a loan deal. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, you've also got Dylan Smith on loan at Arbroath, who's been doing well there, and obviously that would potentially be an option for you. But is it your preference for him to sort of stay and fulfil that loan spell for him to get that sustained run of games that he's been benefiting from in recent weeks.
Yeah, those conversations are taking place. I've spoke to our broth a couple of times. Dylan can't play this week anyway. He's cup tied, so that rules that scenario out, playing out. In terms of beyond that, it's definitely something that we are considering. But as always, as I say with the younger players, if I don't see that path for regular game time, week in, week out, then he's doing extremely well at Arbroath. They're challenging at the top of the table, sitting top of the league. So if I think that's more beneficial, then we would leave him at Arbroath.
With Will getting another setback, have you had more conversations with Wimbledon about whether he's going to stay up here or potentially go back down there?
Yeah, so again, those conversations will take place. We'll see how that plays out. It's still early in terms of the setback that he's had. So we want to see. I think we all recognise what Will brings when he's fit and he's available. But unfortunately, we've not had that enough. So those discussions will take place in how it looks, moving forward. We'd love to have him here, love to have him fit, fighting to be part of this group. But again, for whatever reason, he's been very unfortunate with injuries in his time at the club.
How much are you looking forward to, just the change of focus almost this weekend with the Scottish Cup? Obviously a slightly familiar opponent that in a different league, obviously, in Livingston, and crucially a home game to look forward to again.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I think any team looks for a home draw. We've managed to get that. Like you say, playing against a team that we know very well, despite them, no longer being in the Premier League. I think when you play David Martindale's team, you know exactly what you're going to get. You're going to have, to be in the next round of the cup, you're going to have to earn it. And that's the message from me to the players going into this week. It's not a case of losing focus or taking an eye off it in terms of playing a team that it's in the level below us currently. They're doing really well in a really competitive league right now. A lot of players that have got Premier League experience. So we're looking forward to it in terms of the cup and wanting to get into the next round, but it's trying to maintain and build what we've sort of created in the last couple of weeks.
I think you've talked before about County not having gone on runs in the cup enough over the last few years. What do you put that down to?
I think we've maybe been a bit unfortunate with the draws. We've came up against Celtic several times since I've came back to the club, Aberdeen, but then it's a one-off game. It's still up to you to go and take care of that match when it comes around. But like I say, you get a home draw. This time last year, I think it was Partick Thistle, again playing against the Championship team, and we came unstuck. We got beat very comfortably in the end in that match, and we've got to make sure that doesn't happen going into this week. And yeah, I'd love for the club to get a cup run again, but let's just focus on getting into the next round, and that starts with Livingston.
I know Livingston's recent results haven't been brilliant, in fact, the way they've been going this season, but are there any specific challenges that come with playing a team rising fairly high in a league below?
Well, it was only a couple of weeks ago I watched them live against Partick Thistle, and I thought they were excellent that night, beat them, and David spoke about after the game how much he was enjoying being on the other side of things in terms of having a competitive budget in a league, and able to develop the playing style a bit more, and he was looking forward to showcasing that against ourselves, against a Premier League team. So he's got the bit between his teeth. He wants to come here and perform and do well, and that's why we need to be ready for that, because they've gone from the challenges of competing in the Premier League to now playing in a league where, like you say, they're winning a lot of games, so confidence is high. So we need to be prepared for that.
Don, I just wanted to ask you about Jordan. I missed that at the weekend. Obviously, a great performance and loads of chat about him after the game. How pleased are you that just so shortly after signing an extension to end the season, he put in such a big shift?
Yeah, I thought he was very good, and I think I've said it many times, when you play Celtic you need your keeper to play well, and he certainly did that. He kept us in the game, at 1-0. in several occasions, which give us that opportunity, like you always say, to keep the scoreline to as little as possible, because in one moment you're back in the game, and that's exactly what happened. I think he pulled off a number of very good saves. I think he was a little bit disappointed with Kyogo's second goal, just in terms of he felt he could have maybe saved it. But at the same time, I would never hold that against him in terms of what he performed throughout the duration of the game. And it's another big step in the right direction for him. I don't think he's been overly tested in the previous 4 games. Maybe a little spell against Aberdeen. But apart from that, he's not faced too much. So to see how well he coped with it on Saturday was very pleasing.
And obviously it's come off quite the back of a difficult spell from him with the racial abuse. That must be great for him to go and maybe prove some doubters wrong and just affirm that he is doing what he can.
Yeah, we say it time and time again. There's no place for the abuse that Jordan received, whether it's in sport or life in general. And he's shown really good character in terms of putting that to one side, focusing on playing again. He's loving the opportunity he's been given at this football club. He was desperate to come here, and he was desperate to re-sign in a short space of time. That took very little time for that deal to be concluded, which shows how much he's enjoying things right now. So delighted where he's at right now, and there's positives in terms of Ross Laidlaw's fitness. He's back on the grass, which is come a bit quicker than we thought. So to have Jordan, Jack, and then now potentially Ross in a short period of time competing bodes well for us.
Is Ross going to have a tough time getting back in the team if Jordan keeps playing the way he did on Saturday?
I think any player recognises when someone's playing from the start and doing really well. That's the challenge, to try and get there in front of them. Goalkeepers is different because it's only one player that can play, but right now Jordan's doing extremely well, and I'm sure he'll be wanting to continue that.
Have you talked to him about beyond the summer, if he can perform to a certain level until then, what he might need to do to earn a longer term deal?
No, we've not gone into too much detail. I think he sees this as a real opportunity to get his career back on track, and we're giving him the platform to do that. It's still very early. He's played 5 games, I think. We're delighted with what he's doing. It's now up to him to do that over a consistent period of time. Once that gets to 10, 15 games, then maybe those conversations will start to take place.
You mentioned Ross was back in the grass. Is there any other sort of developments in terms of team use?
No, I don't. Mishi Fetti's still out. He's had a scan and there is a bit of damage to his knee. We're waiting on a second opinion, which tends to be the case in terms of what's the management for that moving forward. Obviously, a couple of players have left in the last week. Eamon Brophy's gone on loan. Max Sheaf has gone to Gateshead, so we wish them the very best in terms of what happens for them in the near future. But apart from that, I think we're pretty much the same as the weekend. We'll see how Casper is the main one.
And you mentioned you were working on a new defender potentially coming in. Is there anything else that's sort of actively being pursued at the minute?
No, not really. George and Robinson and Andrew McLeod, their loan has ended at Brora, or we've taken the release clause in terms of them coming back. So again, they're not available for this week because they played in the Scottish Cup, but those two come back into the squad. We then evaluate things as the month goes on in terms of do they stay and be part of the squad for the rest of the season, or do we look to maybe get them into the Football League for experience at first team level. So we need it right now, and just in terms of the numbers where we're at with the injuries we've got, and in general we've still got another couple of weeks until the window ends. I think it's actually into February this year, the 3rd or February. So there's still a bit of time. We'll see how things play out.
For the 2 players you mentioned there, is that quite a good incentive almost for them, knowing that they've potentially got the chance to challenge for a first team spot here, or the chance to elevate from the the position that they've been in just now with Brora, depending on how things go in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think they're challenging it every day. Every day that they're at this football club, they're challenging to be in the first team. They train with us every day because of the working week that we have, and they train on a Thursday with Brora. So we've got eyes on them all the time. We're seeing how well they're progressing. Not just them, Dylan as well. Unfortunately, Connell's injured right now, but we're seeing how when you see them physically, how well they're looking. All big, powerful boys. So every day it's not a case of they're now back and we decide, because we are seeing what they're capable of. But just like Dylan, like I said earlier, I want them to be here to play for Ross County. I don't want them to be here to be the 21st or the 22nd man on a Saturday. So that's the decisions we need to make for their future and to keep them progressing.
George and Andrew had been in Ireland League before this season as well. Have you seen a big difference in them with this spell?
Yeah, I have. The way the window works in terms of they can go to the Highland League at any time. So when it became apparent that the Football League wasn't an option, Brora is a great option for us. The Highland League is, but Brora in general, it's local to us. They compete at the top of the Highland League. I know the manager really well. They do everything right. They've got a very good team. We've seen that when we've played them over the last couple of years. So it's not ideally where they want to go, the Highland League, but at the same time, when you take into considering the logistics, travelling, it's a really good option, and we felt that was important at that time, despite them going back to the Highland League. I think they're beyond that now. That's why we've recalled them, and we need to push them, because these are the future of this football club, and we need to see when we can get them involved in the first team.
If Ross is going to be coming back sooner than anticipated, does that mean Logan might be going out as well? I know he's still maybe recovering from the head knock a couple of weeks back, but is that the plan for him? Yeah,
look, again, we'll see. I think Logan's played for nearly every Highland League club now. He's a fantastic member of our squad in terms of the way he trains, the way he's progressing as well. It just happens when it's a goalkeeper, you can put them out on an emergency loan for a week, and which is good for him, because it means he gets still first team football. He's got a great personality, so he can go into any change room and feel like he's been there for the best part of the season, and he acclimatises to it really well. So again, we'll see how that plays out. We'll see how Ross his recovery goes in terms of phasing back onto the grass, and how quickly that happens.
It's your first January transfer window as a manager. How more enjoyable, or is it more challenging compared to the summer window, with obviously just so many more games kind of going on at the same time across a shorter period as well?
I know I wouldn't say I've enjoyed it, but I think what it allows you is, because we've played so many games up until this point, you've got a better understanding of where you're at and where the squad's at. In the summer, you've got that really quick, intense turnaround from being in a playoff to then a short holiday to then, the League Cup's on you before you know it. Whereas we've always known this transfer window was coming, so you can see where you maybe want to add to the squad. So it's not like we're panicking or anything like that. Everything's controlled. We're aware of where we are and what we need to try and make us better. So I think it's a lot more controlled at this time, despite people maybe suggest that January is a really difficult window. So it's gone well so far. I think we've got Kieran in, we've got Nohan in, we've managed to extend Jordan, and like I say, we're still actively looking to recruit.
Yeah, because Kieran mentioned when he was in here before about, I think Greg was in contact with him in the summer, so there was obviously a short list drawn up there. So in terms of the transfer strategy kind of going forward, whether it's just the current window or the future windows, there's already those kind of targets identified and potential areas that you would like to improve. So as the season goes on, you can see which areas are going to be a priority and which aren't at that time. Yeah,
exactly, and that's it. You're always evaluating it, and you might have a player that you see and he's at the top of the list that you want, but it might not happen in this January window. But because you're aware of him and you've maybe had discussions about it, it then puts you in a better place and a stronger place come the end of the season in terms of if that conversation comes up again, because there's a lot that goes into signing a player. There's other teams that want them, which is a good sign, so that you're maybe competing against other clubs. There's also the challenge of when they realise where we are on the map, in terms of they might have to take a bit of time to consider it. It's always good when you speak to someone and instantly within 48 hours they're up here becoming a Ross County player. I think that's a really positive sign, and that's what's happened recently with the player that's due to come in. It happened in a short space of time. The thought of coming up here, it did not daunt him one bit, so that for me that's a big tick.
Yeah, and a couple of times as well you've spoken about maybe the natural, or the need for a natural winner in the squad, or kind of that different dynamic. I know we've spoken about Kieran in terms of he can play across that forward line. Is that kind of what you're looking at in these options, that they'll bring a kind of different dynamic to they can play across the forward line, or is it kind of a more natural winger, kind of those different profiles that you're looking to try and bring in?
I would say it's a good question, because we're probably looking at both, but you can't always get one. For instance, George Robinson is someone that comes into my thinking because I see how quick and powerful he is, and he can play wide. So we're not going to just go and try and sign someone for the sake of it. In that, if we don't think it's right, you get very different types of wingers. Like I say, you can get maybe the jinky, silky one, or you can get the one that's got real pace. And it's just who's available, and if we think it's the right fit for our club.
And going into the weekend as well against Livingston, I guess it's a slightly different change, and especially from the weekend where you, as a Premiership team, are probably going into it as favourites. Is that a different kind of mindset that the players have got to take on and maybe shoulder that responsibility that, I think we look back at the Spartans game maybe earlier in the season, that it obviously didn't go to plan, so they've got to learn from it and try and carry it into this game?
Yeah, and I think you've got to embrace that. I think it's a key part of it, and that's why, like I stressed, the mentality side of it is huge. And very few times do we go into a league game where people see us as favourite. So it's been able to deal with the pressure of that. I think we showed as a club we can do it. When we play Rafe in the playoffs, we play them in the League Cup at the start of the season. It's there, but we have let ourselves down at times as well. For instance, you make a really good point with the Spartans one, where everyone expects you just to turn up and win, and that's something you've got to deal with as individually and collectively, to make sure no matter how you do it, you win the game of football to get into the next round, and that's what we need to do this week.
And I guess this weekend as well, a match between Ross County and Livingston. Years gone by, I think obviously they were always kind of viewed down at the bottom end of the Premiership, kind of scrapping away. Obviously with the recent results here and at Livingston as well, two teams kind of going into it in quite good form, it almost creates a different dynamic in the game, which maybe people haven't seen over the years when the two teams have met. Yeah, and it comes back to what we were speaking about in terms of, we're facing a Livingston team who, David said that, the challenge is the Premier League, whereas it's a team that's coming here with real belief, playing, maybe a bit more open and a bit more, with freedom, because they've been that used to, for a long time, trying to stay in games and trying to nick a result at times, whereas they've got that confidence now. And just like our side in the last couple of weeks, you can see the belief that they've got in terms of the results that we've had in that short period of time. So it does have the making of an open, really good game of football, and I'm looking forward to that.